Okay, we're back after the fire drill. We're calm and relaxed. So we have our square roots. They are just resetting the fire alarm. It is fine. We have our square roots. We know a square root is when we square a number. When we multiply a number by itself and it's to the second power, that is called squaring our number. So 5 times 5 squared is 5 times 5. So the square root is the opposite. We have 25, and what number did we multiply by itself to get to it? So square and square root are just opposites of each other. So when we do that exponent to the second power and we square it, so 4 squared would be what number? 4 squared. 16. So what would the square root of 16 be? 4. Because when we had 4 squared, we knew that 4 times 4 is 16. So the opposite, the square root of 16 would be 4. Okay, so the square root of 16 is 4. What do you think the square root of 49 is? Ava? 7. How did you know that, Ava?
Because, I just remembered 7 times 7.
Yeah, 7 times 7 equals 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. Does anybody know the square root of 100? Dom? 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. So 10 squared would be 100. Square root of 100 is 10. Sometimes we're not going to know off the top of our head what the square is. So if I said the square root of 121, you might not know it right away. So we can use our calculator to find the square root, just like we can use our calculator to do our exponents. So you'll notice on our calculator, I've already had a couple people point out to me that they see a little square root symbol on their calculator. So where we have the square button, x squared, x to the second power, x squared, on the calculator right above it is the square root symbol, because remember, they are opposites. So to do this, we're going to say the second button, and then that x squared button, because the square root is right above it. And notice how there's a parenthesis there. So I said the square root of 121, it is 11. Hello, Escape. I will send her, thank you. Bye. Yep. Okay, so who can tell me, using their calculator, what is the square root of 144? So think about how we do that with our calculator. Remember, we do the second button, then we do the x squared, because we're wanting that. We did the second button because we wanted what was right on top of it, and I said 144. What is the square root of 144, Hannah? 12. Because 12 times 12, 12 squared, is 144. So the square root of 12, I'll help you with your calculator later. Okay. Yours is just a little bit different. So 12 squared is 144. Square root of 144 is 12. So let's look at our assignment for today, and we will see that we need to find the square roots. I didn't fill in on the bottom. So the square root of 49 is 7. So what number times itself? I wrote it in the wrong spot. I should not have written it up above. What number times itself is 49? That would be 7 times 7. So we said the square root of 100 is 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. What is the square root of 16? We said it was 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. Now we can also say 7 squared, 10 squared, and 4 squared. Because we know when we square a number, we are multiplying it by itself those 2 times. So 4 times 4 is 4 squared. The opposite of that would be the square root of 16. So they go back and forth between the two. They are opposites. So you're going to do this bottom row yourself. Square root of 4. So what number times itself is 4? Square root of 81. And then those two numbers multiplied out. And the square root of 36. Let me erase so I can scroll up. Now we have a little fun fact. One handy thing about square roots is that we can use them to find side lengths of squares. Think about that. What do we know about a square and its sides? Layla? There are 4 sides to a square. What do we know about their measurements? Melanie? They're all equal. So if we're going to find an area, how do we find the area of a square? Madeline? Length times width. So if our square has, each side is 4, how is this going to help us? 4 times 4. That's our exponent. That's the same as saying 4 squared, right? So we know that area would be 16 because 4 times 4 is 16. So if it's a square and we know that the area is 16, how can we find that side length? What's the opposite?
Division.
What are we working on today? That's the opposite of squaring our number.
Square root.
Yeah, we're going to find the square root of it. If it's a square, we know we multiplied a side by itself. So we know that there is a square root to that. So if they're telling us that our square has an area of 25, our square has the area of 25, how can we find what each side length is? We know that when we're finding that area of a square, it is the same as saying side squared. We're multiplying that side by itself. So if they give us the area, what do we have to do, Connor? What do we call that number? We have to find the square root of that area. And it's going to tell us what the side is. So what is our side length for a square that has an area of 25? You can use your calculator. What is the side length of a square with the area of 25? We want to find that square root of our area. So we're going to want to find the square root of 25. Liam? 5. Because 5 times 5 equals 25. So if they give you the area of a square, you can find the side length by going backwards and saying, well, I can find the square root of it and know that the square root of 25 is 5, so each side is the length of 5. Because 5 times 5 is 25. So you're going to use that for these two problems. If a square has an area of 64 units squared, what is the height of the square? Find the square root of it, and that's going to tell you the side lengths. Doesn't matter if it's the base or the height, they're going to be the same because it's a square. We're not saying the answer right now. You are going to do the work yourself. Then you need to explain how you can use square roots to find the perimeter of a square with an area of 25. So what does perimeter mean? What does perimeter mean, Zelda?
It means the outside of the shape.
The outside. So remember, perimeter is when we add up all the outside sides. So if we know the area is 25, how can we use the square root to find the perimeter? And then tell me what the perimeter will be. You may notice that a square root is like the opposite of squaring something. That's what I've been saying. You're not wrong. Squares and square roots are opposite. 5 times 5 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Okay, they work together. They're opposites. Multiplying and dividing, adding and subtracting, squaring and square rooting. Opposites. Any questions on today's assignment? Okay, so remember we have math packet number 2 now. That is due in 3 weeks. If you turn it in early, I will show you which pages you've done correctly and which ones we need to work on more. Next week, I will be putting the video up for packet number 2. It does help to watch the video to help us with some of those trickier pages. If you have questions on it, next week, I'll be answering questions, but I want to give you a few days of just trying to stretch our brain muscles and try to figure out if we are doing it correctly. Remember, practice tests and real tests are the beginning of next week. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.